It is July in Lancaster County, the kind of afternoon where the air stops moving and the field goes quiet and the heat presses down on the roof of the house like a hand. The English neighbor down the road turned his central air on in May, and it has not been off since. His electric bill came last week, $340. The month before, $310. The month before that, $280. And it is only getting hotter. The thermostat on his wall asks for more every time a cloud passes. The compressor outside kicks on and runs and runs and runs, and the bill comes every month the same as a rent payment, and there is no real end to it until October. Now come into my house. It is the same July afternoon, the same county, the same sun beating down from the same sky, but the air inside is still and cool. Not cold the way a hotel room is cold, that hard artificial cold that dries your throat and hums at you all night. Just cool. The kind of cool that a stone cellar is, or a shaded porch on a still morning. My wife Esther is working at the kitchen table without a fan on her. The children are reading in the sitting room. The dog is asleep on the floor. No compressor outside. No wire from the power company. No bill at the end of the month. What we have is not a trick in the gimmick sense of the word. It is 4 methods used together, each one older than the electric company, each one working quietly all day and night, without asking anything of us, and not one of them requiring a single dollar of electricity to run. Now, I want you to sit with this. The average American household spends about $500 a year running their air conditioning. In the South and the Southwest, it is often twice that or more. And the machine that does it, the central air unit, costs $5,000 to $12,000 to install, and another $150 to $300 every few years in repairs and refrigerant and filters. The bill never stops. The machine never lasts forever. And every summer, the bill gets a little higher than the summer before. My family has kept this house cool through 40 years of July afternoons, and not one of those summers has cost us $1 in cooling. Not one. My name is Amos Stoltzfus. I am Amish, and I farm in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Today, I am going to walk you through the 4 methods my family and my neighbors have used for generations to keep a house genuinely cool in the summer without a wire from the power company and without a machine that breaks and costs money to fix. Before I go further, for the folks who want all of this, every method I have shown on this channel, and the ones I have not gotten to yet, all in one place, I have put it together in a book at my website, AmosStoltzfus.com. I will not push it again in the video. If you want it, it is there. Now, let me show you the methods. And let me be honest with you right at the start, the way I always am. The title of this video says cooling costs to almost nothing. I want to tell you plainly what that means and what it does not mean, because you deserve the honest scope of it before we go a single step further. If you live in a mild climate, in the upper Midwest, the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, the cooler parts of the Pacific Coast, these 4 methods together can genuinely replace your air conditioning entirely for most of the summer. There will be 3 or 4 days in the hottest weeks where it is harder and where you feel the heat more than you would like. Those days exist, and I will not pretend otherwise. If you live in Phoenix or Houston or Central Florida, where the nights do not cool and the humidity sits on you like a wet blanket day and night, and the temperature does not drop below 85 even at midnight, these methods will help you considerably, but they will not replace a cooling system entirely for the worst 6 weeks of your summer. They will cut your cooling costs sharply. They will make the hottest months far more bearable. They will give you real cool in the early morning and the evening. The deep August afternoons will still be warm. That is the honest truth. For most of the country, most of the summer, these methods do the job. Know your own climate and use them for what they honestly can do where you live. Honest is more useful than impressive. Stay with me. Let me first tell you a thing about heat that the air conditioning industry does not build its business on you understanding. because once you understand it, the 4 methods I am about to show you will make complete plain sense. Heat does not just fall into a house from the sky. It gets in 3 ways. Through the roof and walls, radiant heat from the sun baking the surfaces of the building and slowly pushing that heat inward. Through windows, direct solar gain, where the sun shines straight through the glass and heats the floor and the furniture and the air inside like a greenhouse. And through the air itself, warm outside air leaking in through gaps and doors and the movement of people in and out. A modern air conditioner fights all 3 of those at once, all day long, continuously. It is fighting the incoming heat at the same time the heat is coming in. It is a battle, and the battle costs money every hour. The old approach is different. The old approach stops the heat from getting in before it ever reaches the inside of the house. Block the radiant heat at the roof, block the solar gain at the windows, open the house at night when the air is cool, and close it in the morning before the day heats up. Let the building itself hold the nights cool through the worst of the afternoon. That is the whole strategy, not fighting the heat, refusing it at the door. A house managed this way stays genuinely cool through most summer days, with no machine running at all. Now let me show you the 4 methods. The first method is the thermal mass and the night flush. This is the foundation of everything, the one that does the most work of all. 4. Here is the principle. Heavy materials, stone, brick, plaster, tile, earth, hold cold the same way they hold heat. In winter, a masonry heater soaks up the heat from a fire and releases it slowly through the night. I have spoken of that on this channel before. In summer, the same physics works in the other direction. At night, when the air outside cools, you open the house, every window, every door that is safe to open, you let the cool night air move through the building for as many hours as it can. In most of the country, this means opening up around 9 or 10 in the evening when the air outside has dropped below the temperature inside, and leaving everything open until early morning. If you have a ceiling fan or a box fan, this is the one moment it earns its keep. Run it in a window blowing inward on one side of the house and another blowing outward on the other side. This pulls the cool night air through every room, like a river. The old folks called it cross-ventilation. That is the right word. The heavy materials of the house, the stone floors, the plaster walls, the brick fireplace, the tile, soak up that cool night air the same way a stone soaks up heat from a fire. They become, in the language of the engineers, a thermal battery, charged with cool instead of heat. Then, in the early morning, before the sun has had time to warm the outside air, you close the house. Every window, every door, heavy curtains drawn on the south and west sides. The house seals itself around the cool it has stored in the walls and the floor and the plaster. The thermal mass now does its slow work through the day. The stone floor that was cooled by 8 hours of night air does not warm up quickly. It is slow to give up what it has. The plaster walls that soaked in the coolness hold it through the afternoon. The air inside stays comfortable. 4, 6, 8 hours into the day on the stored cool alone, with nothing running and nothing spending. In a well-built house with good thermal mass, the indoor temperature on a hot July day will be 10 to 15 degrees cooler than the outdoor temperature at the peak of the afternoon. And this difference is entirely free. Not a cent of electricity, not a machine running, just the physics of heavy material holding what the night gave it. The honest word on this method: it works best in climates where the nights cool down. If your nights drop to 65 or below, even in a hot summer, this method works extraordinarily well. If your nights stay at 80, as they do in some coastal southern cities, there is less cool to pull in and the effect is smaller. Know your nighttime temperatures and use this accordingly. In Lancaster County, our summer nights almost always drop into the 60s and often the upper 50s. By morning, the house has been breathing cool air for 8 hours, and it holds that cool well into the afternoon. This is the reason my people have never needed a machine to stay comfortable in July. The night does the work, and the building holds it. If your house has thin drywall instead of plaster, lightweight carpet instead of stone or tile floors, and hollow interior walls with no mass to speak of, it will not hold the cool as well. Those houses are built to be cheap and fast, not to work with the physics of the seasons. But even in a lighter built house, the night flush will make a real difference. Every pound of mass in your building helps. A stone countertop helps. A tile bathroom floor helps. A brick fireplace surround helps. Work with what you have and add mass where you can. The second method is the roof and the attic. Most of the heat that makes your house miserable in summer does not come through the walls. It comes through the roof. The sun beats down on the shingles all day. A dark roof on a hot July afternoon can reach 150, 160, even 180 degrees Fahrenheit on its surface. That heat conducts slowly down through the roofing material and into the attic, and from the attic it radiates down through the ceiling into every room of the house below. It is like having a very large, very slow heating element stretched across the top of every room you live in. The old farmhouses dealt with this in two ways, and both of them still work today, and neither requires any electricity. The first is attic ventilation. A properly vented attic lets the hot air that builds up under the roof escape before it has time to conduct through the ceiling. The way this works is simple. Cool air enters through vents low in the eaves at the soffits around the perimeter of the roof line. The sun-heated hot air rises and exits through a ridge vent or gable vents at the peak. This natural movement of air, driven entirely by the difference in temperature between the cool air low and the hot air high, keeps the attic from cooking. A well-vented attic on a hot day may still be warm, but it will be 30 or 40 degrees cooler than a sealed attic with no airflow. And that difference is 30 or 40 degrees less heat pressing down on your ceiling. The second is attic insulation. If the air cannot move fast enough, thick insulation between the attic floor and the ceiling of the rooms below slows the transfer of that heat into your living space. My people use blown-in cellulose insulation, which is made from recycled paper and is one of the most effective and honest insulation materials there is. The building scientists say you want at least 12 to 14 inches of insulation in an attic in a climate with hot summers. Some say more. The thicker it is, the slower the heat moves through it, and the longer the afternoon cool lasts in the rooms below. These two things together, good venting and good insulation, are the most cost-effective improvement most homes can make. More cooling relief per dollar than almost anything else a homeowner can do. A professional can add blown-in insulation to most existing attics in an afternoon. Gable vents and soffit vents are straightforward carpentry work. This is the honest first investment for anyone whose house runs hot at the top. There is one more old trick for the roof that surprises folks the first time they hear it. A white or light-colored roof. Dark roofs absorb the sun and turn it into heat. That is why a black roof reaches 180 degrees. A white roof or a light gray roof reflects a large portion of that solar energy back into the sky before it ever becomes heat in your house. The building science people call this the albedo effect, and the studies on it are clear. A cool-colored roof can reduce the heat entering through the roof by 20 to 40% compared to a dark roof. On a house that runs hot in summer, that is the difference between comfortable and not comfortable in the afternoons. My grandfather painted the roof of the old summer kitchen white. He did not know the word albedo. He knew that the room under the white roof stayed cooler than the room under the dark barn roof on the same afternoon, and that was enough. If you are replacing your roof in the next few years, a light-colored shingle or a metal roof in a light color is a once-in-a-generation decision that pays you back in comfort and lower cooling costs for 30 years. The third method is the window. Windows are the main entry point for direct solar heat in summer. A single south-facing or west-facing window on a July afternoon lets in heat equal to a small space heater running in that room. Multiply that by every exposed window in the house, and you understand why some rooms are unbearable by 3 in the afternoon, even with air conditioning running. The old way of dealing with this is the one your grandmother did, and her mother before her, and hers before that. You cover the window on the sunny side before the sun reaches it, and you open it on the shaded side to let air through. Here is the order that matters, and most folks get it backwards. Exterior shading beats interior shading every time. A shade on the outside of a window stops the sunlight before it passes through the glass. A curtain on the inside stops the sunlight after it has already become heat inside the room. The difference is large. Exterior shutters, exterior awnings, exterior blinds, a porch roof that shades the south windows, a trellis with climbing vines on the west wall, large deciduous trees planted on the south and west sides of the house. All of these block the sun before it enters, and they are far more effective than any interior curtain. The old Amish farmhouses had wide porch roofs on the south side for this exact reason. The low winter sun clears the porch roof and comes in to warm the house in January. The high summer sun strikes the porch roof and never reaches the windows below. One piece of roof does two opposite jobs in two opposite seasons. That is the cleverness of it. For the inside, when you have no exterior shade, the next best thing is a heavy, tightly woven curtain in a light color on the south and west windows. White or cream curtains reflect some of the heat back out through the glass. Dark curtains absorb it and release it into the room. This is a small difference, but a real one. The lighter the curtain, the more heat goes back out. There is one window treatment I have seen the building scientists write about that the old farmhouse people discovered by practice long before anyone measured it. The honeycomb shade, sometimes called a cellular shade. It traps a layer of air between the window glass and the room in small honeycomb chambers. That trapped air acts as insulation, slowing the heat transfer through the glass in summer and the cold transfer in winter. A good cellular shade on a window cuts the heat gain through that window by half or more. They are not expensive, and they go up in an afternoon. Now, the rule for windows in summer is the opposite of the rule for windows in winter, and it is worth saying plainly. In winter, you open your south windows to the sun and close everything else. In summer, you close your south and west windows to the sun and open your north and east windows to the shade and the breeze. The same house, used oppositely, does both jobs. It is not two different houses. It is the same walls and glass and roof used with the wisdom of what the season is asking. The fourth method is the earth. This is the oldest cooling method there is, and the one most completely forgotten in the modern age, and the one that costs the least of all four. The ground is cold, not the surface of the ground, which bakes in summer and freezes in winter, but the deep ground, 6 feet down and deeper, where the temperature is a steady 50 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit in most of the northern half of this country, summer and winter alike. The seasons do not reach that depth. The sun cannot get there. The frost cannot get there either, for most of it. 55 degrees, constant all year, available to anyone who knows how to reach it. Every farmhouse on this county used to have a root cellar. I have spoken about them before on this channel, but the cooling side of the root cellar is what I want to tell you now. A room built into the ground or built against a hillside with its walls in contact with the deep earth sits at 50 to 55 degrees, without a machine, without any electricity, without any effort at all. The earth does it. My root cellar is 54 degrees in July. It was 52 degrees in January. The variation over a whole year is barely 3 degrees. That is more stable and more moderate than any refrigerator I have ever seen, and it runs on nothing. Now, not every home has a root cellar, and not everyone can dig one, but the earth's cooling does not require a room underground to help you. There are 3 ways you can bring the earth's cool into a house without digging a cellar. The first is the basement. A basement, even a finished modern basement, is cooler than the floors above it in summer, because the walls and floor of a basement are in contact with the earth. If your house has a basement, it is your coolest space in July. It costs nothing to use it. Sleep there in the worst weeks of summer, the way country people always did. Move the family eating and sitting to the lowest level of the house in the hottest part of the day. The old folks did not see this as roughing it. They saw it as using the building wisely. The second is the earth tube, which the old Europeans called the Canadian well and which the modern off-grid builders have rediscovered. A pipe, 4 to 6 inches in diameter, buried 4 to 6 feet underground and running 20 or 30 feet in length, with one end opening to the outside air and the other end opening into the house. The outside air, however hot, travels through the pipe, and the deep, cool earth around the pipe pulls the heat out of the air as it passes through. By the time the air comes out the indoor end of the pipe, it has been cooled to near the ground temperature, 55 degrees or close to it, before it ever enters the living space. No electricity, no refrigerant, just the cool of the earth doing the work that a compressor would otherwise do. This is not a new invention. Old farmhouses in France and Germany had these. The Romans had them. The Persian wind towers that cooled great palaces in the desert had variations of this principle. The earth's cool has been available to every person who ever built a house on it. The modern world just stopped using it when the electric company made forgetting seem cheaper. An earth tube for a modest house can be installed in a day of digging and pipe laying for a few $100s in materials. It runs with no operating cost forever. In a climate with hot summers, it gives you a constant, gentle supply of cool, pre-chilled air coming into the house all day and all night with no machine running. The third is the simplest and costs nothing at all. Bare feet on a stone floor. A stone floor, a tile floor, a slate floor, a brick floor, any heavy masonry floor that sits at grade level or below will be noticeably cooler than the air in the room in summer. 10, sometimes 15 degrees cooler under your feet than the air at your head. The old people spent the hottest days sitting low to the ground on the coolest floors they had. They did not think of it as a cooling strategy. It was just the sensible use of what the house offered. Now I want to take a moment because this is the part that matters. Look at what we have just walked through. 4 methods: night flush and thermal mass, roof and attic, windows and shading, the earth. Not one of them requires a wire from the power company. Not one of them has a compressor that breaks. Not one of them sends a bill to your mailbox every month. Together, they are what an old, well-built farmhouse did naturally, without anyone having to think about it, because the people who built those houses understood the physics of heat and cool, and they built their buildings to work with that physics instead of against it. And here is the quiet truth about why most folks have never thought about any of this. There is no money in teaching a family how to flush their house with cool night air. There is no money in a white roof that reflects the sun for 30 years. There is no service contract on a well-placed awning. There is no monthly bill on a root cellar. The whole modern cooling business is built on a machine that runs continuously, consumes electricity every hour, requires installation, requires service, requires refrigerant, and eventually requires replacement. That machine is a very good business. The knowledge I have just given you is not a business at all. It is just the truth of how heat and cool work, and it has been available to anyone willing to think about it since long before the electric company ran a line down any road in this country. My grandfather never owned a mechanical cooler of any kind. His house was comfortable in July because it was built and used the way the 4 methods describe. My father was the same. I am the same. Esther has never once asked me to put in a window unit, and I have never once felt that she needed one. The knowledge has been here the whole time. Most folks have just never been told to look for it. You are being told now. So here is what I want you to do this week. First, tonight, try the night flush. When the outdoor temperature drops below the indoor temperature, open your house fully. Open windows on opposite sides of the building and let the night air move through. If you have a box fan, put it in a window blowing inward on the cool side and let it run through the night. In the morning, before 9 o'clock, Before the outside air has begun to warm, close everything. Draw the curtains on the south and west windows. Close the interior doors to keep the cool concentrated in the rooms you use. Note the time in the afternoon when the house becomes uncomfortable. Do it for 3 nights running and see whether that time gets later. Second, go into your attic if you can do it safely and look at what you have. Is the insulation thick or thin? Are there vents at the eaves and at the peak? Is the air in the attic moving or is it trapped and cooking? What you find will tell you exactly where your house is losing the battle before noon. Third, walk the south and west sides of your house at 2 in the afternoon on a hot day. See which windows are in full sun. Those are the windows letting in the most heat. A piece of exterior shade on those windows, an awning, a shutter, a piece of lattice with a climbing vine will do more for your afternoon comfort than almost any other single change. Fourth, if your house has a basement, use it this summer. Move the family to the lowest cool level during the worst of the afternoon heat. Note what the temperature is down there compared to the main floor. That difference is the Earth's free gift to you, and it costs nothing to accept it. The night flush costs nothing. The attic assessment costs nothing. The window walk costs nothing. The 4 of them together may be all you need to find out that the $340 bill your neighbor is paying every July is not something you have to pay. Tell me in the comments below, what does your electric bill run in your hottest month of the year? And what kind of house are you in? Old stone or plaster or the newer lightweight build? Because the folks in the old heavy houses and the folks in the modern thin-walled ones have a very different starting point with these methods, and both groups should hear from each other. I read every single one. Next time, since we have been speaking of how to keep a house comfortable in every season, without the help of the power company, I am going to show you the old way my people keep a house warm in winter on a fraction of the wood most folks burn. The simple habits, the right kind of fire, the way we seal and hold the heat we have already made so a small stove warms a whole household instead of just the one room it sits in. It is the natural next step after today. Until then, open the house tonight, close it in the morning, and remember that the coolest room in the village has almost always been the one with the thickest walls and the wisest owner.